Hello, Bobby here. I'm delighted to tell you a little bit about the Patron Saint series before you take in some recap moments from the teaching. Our Patron Saint series was about patron saints who actually aren't saints. Surprise! What we did is we asked ourselves if we were to name a handful of people who have influenced commons by way of thought and identity, who would those people be? For us, this exercise was both personal. As preachers and thinkers, we asked who has influenced me, but also how has their influence stretched from me to the people I'm in community with, that is you, Commons Church. So Jeremy spoke about the French literary critic and philosopher René Girard to talk about mimetic desire and our tendency toward violence. And Scott spoke about the Jewish academic and author Amy Jill Levine to talk about respect for Jesus's Jewishness. Yelena spoke about the Orthodox priest and writer Anthony Bloom to talk about silence in prayer and the way we find our own names for God through our lived experiences. And I spoke about the American poet Mary Oliver to invite us to bring a poetic sensibility to our theology. And when we read more poetry, we find ourselves facing what is true and holy. So here's some clips from some of our favorite moments in the series. And before you take those in, I encourage you to consider naming for yourself a few saints who have shaped your own thinking, your faith, and your heart. If you can't think of anyone, maybe it's time to go looking. And we give thanks for the gifts shared with us from the lives of others, reminding us that we're not alone. Enjoy these.
See, Girard realizes that imitation is human, imitation is great, but as soon as imitation isn't realized, we have a problem, and it stops us in our tracks. So the early emergence of Homo sapien seems to, from the archaeological record, have lived in small familial units exclusively. Well, Girard theorizes that's precisely because of mimetic conflict. Imitation is great until resources are scarce, but when they are, conflict breaks out and the group divides back into small units. It mitigates the conflict, but it doesn't help us build a culture. And without a culture, it's hard to progress. But at some point along the way, we discovered a solution to this, and that was the scapegoat.
Levine notes that in each of these stories, there's a finding that leads to celebration, to community, to greater connection, to restored relationships. But that celebration only comes to those who go out searching, to those who, and I quote Amy Jill Levine here, don't wait, those who look now, those who look hard, those who take a second to count what they have. And this is a disruptive way to read these familiar stories. What following Levine's suggestion into more disruptive reading does is it brings these texts to life. And not in some spiritual or pious way where we can go home today feeling like we know what the Bible says better. No, but in the way where they send you out into your life with your eyes and your heart open, paying attention to what you have, looking for what's missing, free to love and forgive and connect as you were meant to.
Sometimes we come to church to be told to do something differently, to think a different way, to love a different way, to worship a different way. We learn the ways of God by noticing and meditating on earthly things, our awe, the vastness of the universe, the loveliness of what is simple. All of that is the gift that you receive, and it is something of the gift that you have to give. Mary Oliver, she is your patron saint because she, like you, loves the world. She spoke about it truthfully, and she gave her words as a gift. She never separated God from all that God has made.
Later in life, Bloom would repeatedly go back to that story, saying that his faith began as an event, an encounter with the risen Jesus, and that the gospel did not unfold for him as a story that he could choose to believe or disbelieve. And that first mystical experience of the divine profoundly shaped not only the rest of Bloom's life, but also his understanding of prayer. Prayer for Bloom always begins when we break through to God, or God breaks through to us. And often those breakthroughs happen at the intersection of our stories and our communities. When our communities are not afraid to hold the complexity of our mystical and our rational, our intellectual honesty and our spiritual passion, our faith seeking understanding and our faith longing to be alive to the mystery of God in us.